Hey everyone, ready to get a little deep? Today we're diving into Eric Berney's Games People Play.
Oh, this is a good one. A classic.
It really is, and we're going to try to unpack these games, right? Not the fun kind, though.
Right, not Monopoly or anything.
Exactly. These are those psychological games, the ones with hidden motives that we play in our relationships.
And we often don't even realize we're playing them.
That's the crazy part. So by the end of this, I'm hoping we can all be a little more aware of the games we play. And
how to maybe play a little differently.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. Where do we even begin with this concept of psychological games?
Well, Bernier's whole theory is built on this idea of ego states.
Ego states, okay.
He says we all operate from three main ego states.
Yeah.
The parent, the adult, and the child.
Okay, that makes sense. But what do those actually look like in real life? Like, how can we tell which one we're in?
So think of the parent state as that voice of authority.
Like our inner critic.
Yeah, kind of. It's all those rules and judgments we've learned, from our parents, teachers, society in general. Sometimes it's nurturing, like giving advice or offering a helping hand.
Oh, okay, so it can be positive too.
Definitely. But it can also be that critical voice, the one that tells you you're not good enough.
Yeah, I know that voice all too well.
We all do. It's important to note that both those sides, the nurturing and the critical, are part of that parent ego state.
Interesting. So then what about the adult state? Is that when we're being totally rational and level-headed?
Yeah, you could say that. The adult is all about logic and objectivity. It's grounded in the present moment, gathering information, solving problems based on facts. Yes.
So when we're at work, planning a project, or maybe having a tough conversation where we're trying to stay calm.
Exactly. The adult is all about clear thinking, rational decisions, no drama.
I like that. No drama. Okay. And now for the fun one. The child ego state. What's that all about?
This is where the good stuff lives. Emotions, creativity, spontaneity. Think pure joy, excitement, curiosity.
So that feeling of dancing to your favorite song or getting excited about a new project.
Absolutely. But also, those not so fun childlike emotions too. Fear, sadness, anger.
Right, because kids can be a handful sometimes.
Exactly. It's important to remember that, like the child state has both adaptive and less adaptive sides.
Okay, so the adaptive side is that playful, spontaneous energy, and the less adaptive side is maybe throwing a tantrum.
Exactly. Or maybe getting stuck in those old patterns of feeling helpless.
Okay, so this is all making sense. I can already see how these ego states play out in my own life. But how do they actually interact with each other? And how does that lead to these games we're talking about?
That's the million-dollar question. And that's where things get really interesting. When we interact with other people, our ego states are constantly engaging in what Brain calls transactions.
Transactions. Okay, I'm intrigued.
These transactions, they're like the units of communication, and they can reveal so much about what's really going on beneath the surface.
So it's like we're speaking a secret language. I'm ready to crack the code.
Let's do it.
All right, transactions. We're decoding the secret language of communication here. Spill the tea. What kinds are there?
Okay, so Brené talks about three main types: complementary, crossed, and ulterior. Let's start with complementary transactions. Imagine you're asking a coworker for their thoughts on a project, and they give you a thoughtful, logical response.
Okay, so it's like a smooth back and forth.
Exactly. Everyone's on the same wavelength. Communication is easy.
Gotcha. That sounds pretty ideal, but I have a feeling it doesn't always go that way.
You're right. It can get messy, which is where cross transactions come in.
Uh-oh. Cross transactions. Sounds ominous.
Imagine the same scenario, right?
Yeah.
You're asking for feedback, but instead of a logical response, you get a defensive reaction, maybe an emotional outburst.
Yikes. Okay, so the wires get crossed and communication breaks down.
Exactly. And then there are the really tricky ones. Ulterior transactions.
Ulterior, huh? Sounds sneaky.
Oh, they can be. Imagine someone is constantly complaining about being swamped at work.
I've definitely heard that one before.
Right. But instead of directly asking for help, they keep dropping these hints. They're like, oh, I guess I'm just not cut out for this job.
Playing the victim card?
Exactly. They're sending a hidden message, hoping someone will offer to take some work off their plate.
Wow, okay, so they're not being direct about what they need.
Nope. They're playing a game, trying to manipulate the situation to get their needs met indirectly.
So that's where understanding these transactions is so important.
Totally. Once you see those patterns, you can choose to respond differently, maybe address the underlying need directly, or just refuse to play the game altogether.
Okay, I'm definitely starting to see the power of this. But what about the specific games people play? You mentioned Bernie had a whole catalog of games, from life games to marital games, party games, even underworld games.
Oh, yeah, he categorized them all. Let's start with some common life games. One that a lot of people can relate to is Kick Me.
Kick me. That sounds kind of rough.
It can be. It's when people, maybe subconsciously, set themselves up for failure. They might procrastinate, mess things up, even sabotage their own efforts.
Why would anyone do that to themselves?
It's often to confirm a belief they have about themselves, like maybe they feel unworthy or deserving of punishment.
Wow, okay, that's deep. And kind of sad.
Yeah, can be. Another classic game is See What You Made Me Do.
Oh, the blame game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about shifting responsibility onto someone else, making them feel guilty for your problems.
Classic manipulation tactic. Okay, what about those marital games?
Ooh, those can get interesting. One that pops up a lot is If It Weren't For You.
I have a bad feeling about this one.
It's when one partner constantly blames the other for holding them back from their dreams or happiness.
So instead of taking responsibility for their own choices, they put it all on their partner.
Exactly. And then there's Frigid Woman, which, the name is a bit outdated.
Yeah, a little cringy.
But the dynamic is still relevant. It's about one partner, often the woman, withholding intimacy or affection as a way to control or punish their partner.
Okay, so it's not really about being frigid, but about using intimacy as a weapon.
Right. It's a form of manipulation, even if it's not always conscious.
This is fascinating, but also a bit overwhelming. It sounds like every interaction could be some kind of game.
It can seem that way. But remember, Brené wasn't saying that all interactions are manipulative. He also identified healthy, fulfilling ways to connect, what he called good games.
Good games. Okay, I need to hear about these. What makes them different?
Good games are about genuine connection, without hidden agendas. They're about finding joy in shared activities, offering support, building relationships based on trust and mutual respect.
Okay, that sounds a lot healthier. Can you give me some examples?
Absolutely. One is Busman's Holiday.
A busman's holiday. What's that?
It's when people do something similar to their work in their free time, but purely for enjoyment. Like a chef who loves to cook elaborate meals for friends on the weekends.
Ah, so it's still using their skills, but it's about passion, not obligation.
Exactly. Another one is Cavalier.
Cavalier, okay.
It's all about showing politeness and courtesy just because it feels good to be kind.
Like holding the door open for someone or just being genuinely friendly?
Totally.
Yeah.
Simple acts of kindness, Then there's Happy to Help.
That sounds lovely.
It's about offering support without expecting anything in return. Volunteering, helping a neighbor.
Yeah.
Just being there for someone who needs it.
Pure generosity. That's beautiful.
Right. Then there's Homely Sage, where people share their wisdom and knowledge to help others learn and grow.
I love that. Like a mentor guiding someone younger or just sharing life experiences to help someone else.
Exactly. And then there's They'll Be Glad They Knew Me.
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
It's about striving to make a positive impact on the world, leaving behind a legacy of goodness.
Wow, that's powerful. So these good games, they offer a real alternative to those manipulative ones.
They really do. They remind us that genuine connection, kindness, generosity, they're always possible.
Okay, this is all so insightful, but how do we actually make that shift? How do we stop playing those not so healthy games and start embracing these good games? Okay, so much to unpack here. We've got all these games, good and bad, but how do we actually change? Like, how do we stop playing the not so healthy ones?
It's not easy, but it starts with awareness. Brené really stressed that, recognizing the games we play.
Okay, but what does that look like practically?
It's about shining a light on those unconscious patterns that drive our behavior. Asking yourself, what am I getting out of this?
Even if it's not something good for us, ultimately.
Exactly. Like, am I seeking validation? Am I trying to control things? Am I avoiding responsibility? Once you see the game you're playing, you can choose to respond differently.
Okay, I'm with you. Awareness is key. But then what? How do we actually change our behavior?
One big thing Brené talks about is honest communication.
So being more direct.
Yeah. Expressing your feelings and needs openly without manipulation.
No more hinting around.
No more hinting. Like, instead of saying, oh, I'm so terrible at this, hoping someone will offer help, just say, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Could you lend a hand?
Right. Be upfront about it. I like that. What else?
Another important piece is spontaneity.
So like being more in the moment, less
Right.
robotic.
Exactly. Responding authentically instead of reacting from those old ingrained patterns, it's about breaking free from the rigidity of the game.
Okay, that makes sense. But spontaneity, that sounds kind of hard to just like turn on.
It definitely takes practice, but the more you can tap into that, the more genuine your interactions will be.
So we've got awareness, honesty, and spontaneity. Is there anything else?
Yeah, the last piece, and it's a big one, is intimacy.
Okay, intimacy. I can see how that's important for healthy relationships.
Byrne believed that true intimacy only happens when we let go of the games. When we connect from a place of real vulnerability.
So it's about being truly seen and known by the other person.
Yeah. Dropping the masks, the defenses. It's about trust and respect and embracing those imperfections in ourselves and in others.
Wow, this is a lot to think about. It's incredible to have all this insight into how we interact, but it also kind of makes me wonder if all our relationships are just a bunch of games.
I get that.
Yeah.
But remember, knowledge is power.
Right.
Now you can start to see these games playing out and make different choices.
That's a good point. It's all about becoming more conscious.
Exactly. And as you do that, you'll naturally attract people who are also playing a more authentic game.
That's a great thought to end on. It's like we're all on this journey of figuring things out.
We are. And the more we understand ourselves and the games we play, the more we can create truly meaningful connections.
Absolutely. Well, listeners, I hope this deep dive into games people play has given you a lot to think about. What games are you playing? How can you make your interactions more authentic? Keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep playing the game of life with a whole lot of heart.